The Amityville Horror. On a quiet street in Amityville, New York, there was a large house that looked completely ordinary. A beautiful home. A quiet neighborhood. A place where a family should have felt safe. But in 1974, something happened inside that house that would become one of the most famous horror stories in America, and even decades later. People still argue about what really happened there. The house was located at 112 Ocean Avenue. From the outside, it looked peaceful, almost perfect. But on the night of November 13, 1974, everything changed. A man named Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed 6 members of his family inside the house. His parents, and his 4 siblings. The murders shocked the community. The house became the center of a horrifying crime. But the story didn't end there. About 13 months later, a young couple named George and Kathy Lutz moved into the house. With their 3 children, they knew about the murders. But they believed they could handle it. The price of the house was unusually low. And the family wanted a new beginning. They moved in. At first, everything seemed normal. But according to the Lutz family, strange things began happening almost immediately. George reportedly started waking up at strange hours of the night. The house seemed unusually cold. Doors allegedly opened by themselves. And there were claims of strange smells appearing throughout the home. Then, things became even stranger. George reportedly became obsessed with keeping the fireplace burning. He was constantly cold, even when other people in the house weren't. Kathy also claimed that she experienced disturbing visions and felt as if something was watching her. But perhaps the strangest part of the story was the green slime. According to the family's account, a strange green substance appeared on the walls and ceilings. There were also claims of black marks appearing around the house. And then, the children reportedly began talking about an imaginary friend named Jody, but Kathy believed Jody wasn't imaginary at all. One night, the family reportedly heard strange noises coming from inside the house. George went to investigate. Nothing was there. But according to the family's story, the disturbances continued. Windows were damaged. Doors were reportedly forced open. And the family began to feel that something inside the house wanted them gone. Then came one of the most famous claims. George allegedly woke up one night and saw Kathy floating above the bed. He tried to wake her, but she appeared completely unresponsive. When he finally managed to wake her, she reportedly had nitrogen monoxide memory of what had happened. As the days passed, George's behavior allegedly became more disturbing. The family claimed that he looked and acted like a completely different person. Kathy later said that the house seemed to be changing them. Fear, anger, paranoia, and exhaustion. Eventually, the Lutz family decided they couldn't stay. They had reportedly lived in the house for only 28 days. One night, they packed what they could and left. They never lived there again. But here's where the story becomes controversial. The Amityville Horror became famous after the Lutz family's experiences were published in a book. The story later inspired movies, television programs, documentaries, and countless paranormal investigations. But not everyone believed the family's story. Skeptics questioned many of the claims. Some argued that the paranormal events had been exaggerated, or even fabricated. Others pointed out inconsistencies in the family's accounts. And because there was no scientific proof that a supernatural force had taken over the house, the story remains unproven. Even George Lutz himself was involved in discussions about the story's accuracy. And over the years, different people connected to the case gave different accounts. So what really happened inside that house? Was it a genuine haunting? Was the family experiencing fear and stress after moving into a house where 6 people had been murdered? Or was the story deliberately made more frightening over time? Nobody can answer that with certainty, but there is one thing we do know. 6 people were murdered inside that house in 1974. That part of the story is real. And that fact alone is disturbing enough. Today, the house at 112 Ocean Avenue no longer looks exactly like the house seen in photographs from the 1970s. The address has changed, the appearance has changed, and the people who once lived there are gone. But the legend remains. Pause. For decades, people have driven through Amityville, looking for the house. Paranormal investigators have studied its history, and horror fans continue to debate whether the Lutz family experienced something supernatural or something much more human. Long pause. Maybe that's what makes the Amityville story so terrifying, not knowing where the truth ends and the legend begins, because sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones we can prove. They're the ones that leave us wondering, what if? Long pause. The Amityville house became famous because of a story about ghosts. But its history began with something far more real: 6 innocent people murdered inside a family home, and perhaps that's the darkest part of the entire story. Because long after the rumors disappeared, long after the movies were made, and long after the cameras left, the history of that house remained. Pause. So the next time you see an old house sitting quietly at the end of a street, remember, you never really know what happened behind those walls. Sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. It waits, and sometimes it waits in a house. Long pause. If you enjoyed this story, and you want to hear more true, terrifying, and unexplained stories from across America, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because you never know what story we're going to uncover next. Pause. Until then, keep the lights on, and don't look behind you.